The fathers of the church says, well, he's not yet saintly, maybe we'll get there, Pius XII. The great doctors, in the sermons they preached on the Feast of the Assumption of the Mother of God, had as their theme a doctrine which all the Christian world already knew and accepted. It was for them to elaborate it, to bring out the essential meaning of it beyond what lay on the surface. To say that the body of the Blessed Virgin never knew decay was not to exhaust the meaning of this solemnity. What we celebrated was the triumph she won over death when she was glorified after the pattern of her only Son, Jesus Christ, in heaven. It is true that the East doesn't quite see things as we do with regard to putting things in boxes. They're more mystical, and therefore they would never define as we would. They leave it to the knowledge of God. We don't actually need to know all, do we? But they have this standing in awe like Moses before the burning bush. A holy wow. And you can see it, by the way, they celebrate the Pelagia, the all-holy, feminine of all-holy, when every time she comes in this response throughout the long liturgy, they get up and bless themselves 3 times. Adjectives, 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 superlatives, 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 piled on in high poetic tone. That's the way they do it, and they do it well. So when they talk of the dormition, the falling asleep of the Virgin, we don't need to say it's a different thing, it's a different way of putting the same. With regard to what happened, it is actually pretty ancient, for ancient non-canonical scriptures do make a reference to it from very early on, and so something has come down from early times. Remember now, oral tradition is not indifferent. They are closer than we are to the source. With regard to what happened, it's logical, really, isn't it? Our faith, c'est un tout qui tient. It's a whole that holds together. Each bit is hinging on another, and it all holds together. So, sin has its consequences. We believe that the original creation of man was something we can't fathom in its beauty. Adam and Eve, they would have been truly glorious. Apparently, they would have been larger in size. These had this innocence, but then, actually, as one of our great poets has put it, when this first sin came out, earth felt the blow. A jarring note came into the cosmos. However, remember, it was already there insofar as they were tempted by already a fallen power. So we were next in line for heavy fire. Unfortunately, Old Nick got them, and us too, and the punishment is seen. Mortality, the body becomes putrid. And we see the reverse of it in the incorruptibles, those who were so pure that the body in some way shared that innocence, and there are quite a few incorruptible bodies around. And things happen. I remember close to our monastery there was one, Agnes the Montepulciano, a very, very pure virgin, a Dominican. And St. Catherine, who was not far away in Siena, came to venerate her. And as she placed her lips to her feet, the dead body raised her foot. So one saint, as it were, said hello to the other from the other side. With regard to Our Lady's activities, the body can actually make itself felt by weight. I won't go into that now, but it is known. But certainly what does happen is that she's sharing in the miraculous power that she has from this association with the activity of the Blessed Trinity, to follow all these prayers and conversations at the same time. Just look at any video of people in simultaneous ecstasy. They're having different conversations. Therefore, she's listening to all our prayers, but she's waiting for them too. And she knows the difference between a rosary which is rattled off and one in which we meet her. There's a big difference. Do you think they don't feel the difference? And then these interventions. It's actually very moving. I was right next to a lady, a young lassie, who was about to have an ecstasy, and it was moving to see how suddenly she changed, and there was no way that could have been put on. No longer was the voice heard, even though the lips were moving, and you could see that she was looking directly at a presence, visible and tangible. And I was touched by what actually she reported when she came to. That our Blessed Lady had stayed longer than she would have done normally because there were so many priests around, and she was glad to have us there. And we also got this message. It applies also to us here. We had been warned just before this apparition to be careful, because they just had an experience of this nature there. It was this. Our Lady had delayed her coming by about 10 minutes and had explained why. She had seen that waiting for her were people as in a theatre, a spectacle. They were the priests even there in the sanctuary area, crossing their legs, waiting for the show. Do you think Our Lady was amused? Now, if that's the case with the Blessed Lady, what is it with regard to her son? Sometimes we sit up and make attention if she's around, but her son we take lightly and glibly. That's not right. Given that she's actually around right now quite a lot, it's interesting to see how she manifests herself. In the East, she uses what makes sense to them. Icons, oozing miraculous oil. Icons bleeding if they're attacked by a sword. Even, I know an icon on Mount Athos which sang when the monk couldn't go on, couldn't remember the melody. It carried on for him, the icon. And on it would go. She adjusts herself to where we're at. In Ireland, she likes to say the rosary in the family. She likes to see it well said, though, and I insist, don't get into automatic pilot. So many rosaries badly said still in this land. The object seems to be to get to the end. Anything which is worth doing well. Anything. Now, just the other day, I got this testimony. I'll give you two actually. One I got last night, but the other just a few days or by weeks ago, from an Italian hermit who was staying with me quietly. It was this priest, a fairly young priest actually, who had switched off, more or less, from things being taken too seriously. I think actually he was in difficulty, and I think he may actually have been on the point of relinquishing the priesthood. I think he was actually. He wasn't in a good place anyway. He was approached by a friend of his, come to this place, it might do you good. But anyway, he made it interesting for him. I think he may have combined it with some kind of holiday. Off he went with himself. Now, it went from bad to worse. He found he had to climb a mountain. He wasn't amused. But then he started to sort of half say a prayer. Look, if this is real, I want a sign. So anyway, as he was starting to climb the mountain, he knew that there was something fighting against him, because this other priest was taking an awful lot of time. There were these stations to be said very slowly, up, 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 and he was suddenly cheesed off at this stage. And to make it worse, this idiot came up to him and asked for confession. So there he was, spending a long time as he was going up hearing this person's confession. And then, eventually, after about an hour or so, they got to the top. And you still hear his confession. And at the end of the confession, the gentleman said to him, the one who was being confessed, "The sign that you're waiting for is me." Oh. He came down and he had to go along with what the others were doing. And there they were, the whole lot of them, before the house of one of the visionaries. And the visionary in question came right up to him out of the blue and said, "The Blessed Virgin wants you to found," and she said what? It was to be more than just an association, a little congregation sort of. It's in Latin America, and it was to be helping the poor and the orphans, that kind of thing. So anyway, a day went by, and he was at this stage hyper-cheesed off. And what was his surprise when the same visionary out of the blue came right up to him and said, because he had said mentally in answer to this, "Well, look, our Blessed Lady, if this is serious, you've got to give me the means by which to do it. That was the thing." And this visionary came up to him and said, "The inheritance which you have just received is the means by which you were found." Oh. So, with the goose pimple starting to go up his flesh, he realized this was actually the real thing. He went back, and out of the blue, things started to happen. People came to him, and out of nothing, out of his disbelief, grew a very good group which is doing an awful lot of good in Latin America. Last night I heard this testimony. It was to do with Our Lady, insofar as a sanctuary in Europe, not always taken as seriously as it should be, has actually more to it than meets the eye. I've only been there once. In fact, when I was looking after Sojano, which by the way had its own miracle, but I won't go to that now, because on this very day I remember celebrating the Mass in the church where it happened, and it was built for that. It was Loreto. Now, Loreto, people look back and say, "Come on, that could never happen," but actually, science has gone into it in recent years, and there's more to it than meets the eye. Heaven, the providence of heaven, knew that there was a danger that the Holy House, sanctified by the presence of our Blessed Lady, was going to be, as other things, ruined and demolished by the Islamic takeover. And so, it was rescued, miraculously. Now, people stand back and say, "That could never be. How could angels transport that kind of thing?" But actually, the onus of proof or disproof is on those who don't believe. Because why? They have found, if you look exactly at how it's built, the techniques, the very stones, the design, and also traces such as pollen, are scientifically accurate. It's from there. Everything is correct. Now, this next bit. A gentleman was a fairly young priest, I believe in the Bristol area, and he was going to go on pilgrimage to Loreto. And a friend of his said, "Look, if you're going there, I want you to look for," I think his name was Tom. It's a needle in a haystack. You'll never find this gentleman. You recognise him. What's so special about him? Well, it's like this. Years ago, he realised the importance of Loreto and decided to give all his life to praying all the time to give in the Basilica to our Blessed Lady at Loreto for the world. He was going to be present at every celebration from morning until night until he was forced to leave every day for the rest of his life. He's a holy man, and I want you to meet him. Off he went with himself. And he saw this gentleman not like anyone else. Maybe that's the gentleman in question. You could see he was kind of special. Are you by chance Tom? No, I am. How do you know? I was told to see you. Oh. And got talking. And Tom, now I think it's 1982, said this to him. There's a gentleman in New York, I think, who is one day going to bring America back to God. Oh? His name is Donald J. Trump. Oh, come off, that's the playboy of New York. Okay, don't believe me. He went off with himself. And now, very interestingly, he seems to be the only one in the political scene out there who's no one's puppet, who dares, together with his First Lady, to pray and to say things as he thinks they should be prayed and said. Maybe Our Lady is involved in this, especially with the link with Melania, who seems Catholic links and has been noticed to be having the rosary in her hand. Maybe also something will happen one day in England through William. There's a prophecy there as well. What we need to remember is that also there's one interesting link with the whole Islamic bloc. It's Our Blessed Lady. Fatima was a daughter of, wife, I think, of Muhammad. And the Muslims have a strange kind of respect for Our Blessed Lady. And there's a prophecy that one day she will bring that block back. So how it will happen, I have no idea. But it's important, because no ecumenical gesture can jettison Our Lady. She's right in the middle, close to glory, and no one of us is the highest order of our race. I'll just give you this, which years ago I composed in solitude, thinking about how this little child, Miriam, stepped from playing with little toys to playing with angels to sitting at the right hand of the Alpha and the Omega.